Hey, Amy, I'm really, after looking at your bio, I'm really excited to be talking with you because I think one of the things that I've seen in the entrepreneur world is that a lot of people like to have this front that they've just always been successful or that life has been pretty peachy. And it always kind of looks like from the outside looking in, like we're all going, oh, wow, like they've just never had hardships. And you're very open about where you're at and like what life was like. Of course, now you've been able to walk through all that, which is obviously one of the reasons why you're such a great coach and how you help women uncover their purposes and find their strength, their inner strengths. But so I'm really excited to dive into that. But before we do that, maybe just do a quick intro of like who you are, what you do for a living, and really the passion that you obviously live out on a daily basis.
Yeah, perfect. So I am a mom. I have three of my own children and four stepchildren, so seven total.
Mhm.
Second marriage. I am extremely passionate above everything else, showing women what's possible and also being an example of what's possible. I don't feel like women play as big as men in general. Like we try to stay small and quiet and, submissive or whatever. And so I love to help women see what is possible. If
Mhm.
they are struggling in any way, then I just love to sweep in there and help them through that. And it's been my own journey. Like I've gone through a lot of ups and downs, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And through all of that, it's just like really, how do I put it into words? I'm like so like fulfilled in my life now. And I'm like, I want other people to feel this and I want other people to know that it's possible. You can be down all the way like rock bottom and it doesn't matter. You can still build yourself up to be whatever it is you want to be. And so with that said, I am a mindset and business coach. I've been doing it for a long time. My background is in fitness. So I taught fitness classes and I've been a personal trainer, all the fitness stuff for 20 years.
Mhm.
And I've built multiple businesses at this point. Um, I hit the multi-million dollar mark, which was crazy. Like it's still even weird to say that, like, whoa, like I just did not think that was my life. So um, even with that said, there's still ups and downs, but
Yeah.
I've gone through a lot of challenges that I love to talk about to show people that, yeah, you can create a thriving life if you choose it.
Yeah. So you mentioned the businesses. So let me just start there really quick because a lot of
Yeah.
people are always interested to know, like, okay, so what does that mean? What kind of businesses have you created? Have you expanded? Are you still running them? Like, what does that look like in your?
Yeah. I do a lot of different things. So it started with health and wellness. I still own a dance and fitness studio.
Okay.
I don't have to do much with it anymore because I have a manager and I have different people that are teaching the classes. So I built that and then passed it off to someone that does most of the work there. I have a Facebook store and an Amazon store, very random.
Okay.
Uh,
And what do they do? They sell products then,
so they
or?
sell products and we have drop shipping. I don't have to do anything with those anymore as well. I have other people that run them.
Okay.
What I'm most passionate about is my coaching, all the coaching that I do. That's
Yeah.
where I spend the majority of my time. Um, I have multiple real estate properties. So I have a real estate business that I run and I do the stuff with that. We have a property management company for the properties that are outside of Utah. And then the ones that are in Utah, I manage like long-term rentals.
Okay. Yeah.
And trying to think what else we have our hands in. I say we as in me and my husband. Oh, this is very random. In the summertime, we offer swim lessons. It's 10 weeks long and we pump 300 kids through that program.
Whoa.
I know, in 10 weeks. So that's a little insane. And we also have another company that we are building that I'm not going to talk about yet, but I'm super excited about. I think that's going to be like our biggest thing we've done yet,
Mhm.
but it also has to do with real estate. So I like to dabble in a bunch of different things so that we always have multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. Honestly, if you look at successful people, typically they had one company that was very successful, but they also had the offspring of those companies, right? And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that we've done that I've tried to do and create with our companies is at the center of it is real estate.
Mhm.
It allows for a lot of other opportunities that they complement each other, other businesses that are kind of formed around those industries as well too. So I know that doesn't seem like it always connects, but I'm sure in a certain way, a lot of your businesses have some connectivity there, or like you have
They do.
clients
Yeah.
kind of right. And so, and I got to imagine you're an extraordinarily good delegator because of the fact that you're, a mom of seven. You've got multiple companies. Obviously, you have a great husband that is a partner in a lot of that stuff, I'm sure, with you. And then, of course, you're also coaching as well, too, which is a passion of
Yeah.
yours. So I imagine delegation is a huge thing for the way that you live your life.
Absolutely. But that was probably the hardest lesson I've learned because I get things done and I get them done really fast. And so I tried to do everything for a long time. And it took me a long time to realize that I was my own bottleneck and that other people's brains are better than mine a lot of times, finding the right person for the right job. And so that was something that took me a long time to learn that I'm open about because a lot of times you get in your own way. And I absolutely was for a long time. And now I have less stress. I have more time. Things are running smoother. So it was a hard lesson, but I have become better at delegating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think that as a business owner, I think what you end up finding out too is when you have the right people in place, the businesses go so much farther than what you were capable of allowing them to do because we all have our lids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we put the right people in place, they're able to go and expand past that because we have the resources. And as an owner, you also have the vision as well too. So you can spend more time in the growth of the companies as they are taking care of and maintaining the things that are going on. So I think that's the
Absolutely.
bonus of it. So I'm really interested to know. So as a coach for it sounds like a lot of women,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I've heard multiple times and kind of came to recognize is that we as coaches, as mentors, as leaders, business owners, we're perfectly positioned to help those that we once formerly were. Right.
Yes.
Meaning that our past history, the things that we were in our in the past lives, in a certain sense, we are perfectly poised to coach and mentor and help those people. Do you find that that's a lot of the traits of the women that you are now coaching? Is that there's a piece of them that reminds you of yourself or your past self?
Absolutely. In fact, the people that find me, I feel like are the old version of me. And the people that I end up loving coaching the very most, I was so like, you found me because you were connected to my energy and you want what I have now, but it's because you are in the phase that I used to be. So absolutely. And it's been really fun seeing them grow and progress and being like, I was able to be a piece in that and to help them.
So let's open that Pandora's box a little bit then, right?
Yeah,
So
let's do
that
it.
you said that you're an open book. So I am so appreciative of that. And our audience is going to be tremendously appreciative of it as well, too. So what was the old Amy like? What is it? What are the characteristics or what do you see in these women? Like what were you like before you had started to maybe change your philosophy on yourself or finding your greater purpose? What was the old Amy like?
I call myself a recovering people pleaser because I still feel like I can fall into that. I'm very aware of it now, but I was someone who said yes to anything and everything. And I say that completely, like things that I should never say yes to, I would say yes to.
Mm.
And I never really knew what I wanted.
Mm.
I wouldn't ask myself that. I was taught at a very young age. My parents did the best they could with what they had, but I didn't have a very healthy childhood. And so I was taught that if it's an adult, you say yes, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because you respect adults. Adults are to be respected, but it was like a demanding of respect. And also, if someone asks you for something, you just say yes. And so I learned to not ever even ask myself what I wanted. And if I wanted something and I went to say it, I would get in trouble. Mm. And so I learned that, okay, what I want doesn't matter. And I just need to be that person that is quiet. I'm not a quiet person, by the way, but I learned that
in the first couple.
I like to talk. I like to be loud. I like to inspire people, but I was taught to just be quiet and just say yes. Yeah. And it really didn't sit well with me, but that's what I would do. And so I got into situations that were not good when I was even teenage years, because if you just are saying yes to people that you maybe shouldn't be saying yes to, that can lead to, it can be problematic. Yeah. And that's also what led to my first husband. When he proposed, He proposed after dating me for 3 weeks. I think it's a very important piece to add that I was dating him for 3 weeks when he proposed. When he proposed, I left him on his knee. It was snowing outside. It was a total blizzard. I didn't want to be outside. And even that where he's like, let's go outside and walk around. Excuse me. Let's go outside and walk around these grounds. And I was like, what? But I was like, okay. I said yes to it, like walking around in this like snowy blizzard, terrible time to propose, but he did. And when he proposed, he didn't even have the ring that was finished. And so like I was looking at these empty prongs, there was no diamond in the middle. It was like not finished. And I just looked at that and I looked at him, and my entire inside, like head to toe, was sick, like sick to my stomach. Don't say yes, Amy. My body was screaming at me. And what I said was, as I left him on his knee for a while, I was like, well, did you ask my dad? And he's like, yeah, I did. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. That is how I responded to one of the biggest decisions you make, marriage.
Yeah.
At the age of 22, which is also a pretty young age to be getting married. And so I got married. It was not
real quick. Did he really ask your dad?
He actually did, which was crazy. Okay. Let's talk about that. He asked my dad while I was on a date with another guy. So our relationship wasn't even serious enough to where we were so serious that, of course, that's who's asking my dad for my hand in marriage. Yeah. My girlfriend said, hey, like, wait, who did you get engaged to? When I said I got engaged, they had to ask who.
Wow.
So, I mean, that just tells you a lot about how that relationship was.
Yeah. No kidding.
And I got into it. And being in that relationship, it was unhealthy from the beginning. It progressively got worse. And I remember just like looking in the mirror thinking, Kate, like, this is not how I envisioned my life. I'm a happy, bubbly person by nature. And I just was like, that was gone. Like that light was not there. I did have, my situation was unique in the fact that because I was a fitness instructor, I would walk into these classes of like over 50 women that thought I was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I would get up there and I'd be like all happy and positive and motivating, you know, I would put on a show, but then I would come away from there and they would tell me how great I was, but I'd come away from there to a husband that told me all the bad things about me and how awful I was and all of the things. And really what got me out of that. So we had 3 kids together, and our religion was at the time, like, you do not divorce no matter what. Like, this is just not something that you can do. Yeah. And if you do, you get judged. And I just remember looking at my little boys thinking, I don't want them to think that this is acceptable for a man to treat a woman like this. I don't want them to have this example and that I'm not strong enough to show them what women should be treated like. And so it was almost as if like my kids are the things that got me out. Like looking at them thinking, what do I want for them? Yeah. And again, if you look at that, I was still not asking myself what I wanted for me. It was still for someone else, but it was enough to start the ball rolling of like, okay, what do I want? What was my vision when I was a kid? What did I want for myself? And from there, I started doing the work. Things started changing for me. I tell people that I was broke when I was married to him, but when I divorced him, I was even more broke. I didn't think that could be a thing, but it absolutely is. I'd have to make deals with my landlords. Like, okay, if I paint this thing or if I do this weeding, can I deduct the rent? So I got like really scrappy, but I also now felt more free. And I started asking myself those questions, like, what do you want for yourself? And who do you believe you can be? Yeah. And at that point, it was like a bridge. Like, who do you believe you can be?
Yeah. I got to imagine, I mean, just listening to your story, I'm sure that there was a lot of heartache in that process. Obviously, your folks were a big part of your life, healthy and unhealthy wise. So I imagine there was some battles that you had to face within that aspect as well too. Friends, and of course, obviously the people that you had surrounded yourself, maybe that community when it came to the religion that you were based in as well too, because of the consequences of the decision that you made for yourself. When you said one of the comments you made was that you started to do the work.
Mhm.
Meaning that I'm sure that you started to do the work on yourself
Yeah.
and pursuing this next chapter of your life. What specifically did you start to recognize that you needed to work on that was giving you that momentum to take one more step, even as painful as it was?
Yeah. I like that you brought that up because, yeah, when you go through that, everything changes. I was judged by my religion. I was judged by my parents. My dad said, I know that he's awful to you. I know that you'll never be happy with him, but you made that commitment, so you have to stay. And
Wow.
I was like, what? This is my dad. Like,
Yeah.
my dad is telling me I have to stay, you know? And
Yeah.
so when I started doing my own work, it really was small, small things. And when I say small, I mean like, what do I want to cook for dinner tonight?
Hmm.
Not anyone else. What do I want to eat tonight?
Hmm.
Super, super small.
Yeah.
What do I want to do today for me? And then I really, I always have been into like the self-development world. So I always was reading books,
Mhm.
and I would read certain books and I'd be like, my life is so out of line. Why? And so I got really curious. And really what it came down to was my own internal beliefs about me and my thought processes about me. And that's why I do so much mindset work now. I mean, I was in my own way. I was so much of a people pleaser that I didn't even know what I wanted.
Mhm.
Like simple things. Like it wasn't even okay for me to go into like a clothing store and spend $20 on myself for a shirt. It was just like, no, I can't do that for me. So I was telling myself that I can't have this, I can't do this, I can't do this all the time.
Yeah.
And so
So
saying yes is part of the work at the very beginning, is like saying yes and then asking.
yeah. Yeah. I'm curious to know, as you were doing these, I call it like building integrity moments, right? Integrity
Mhm.
moments, because you start to trust yourself. You start to maybe stay in some of those disciplines that you're like, man, this is really hard for me to do. This discipline of like building that confidence in yourself, that discipline of not talking to yourself in a negative way, and the amount of times that you had to say yes to yourself. It's funny because a lot of the times people have to start saying no because of all of the things that they said yes to, like that former life of you that said
Yeah.
we used to say yes to everybody. You're like, okay, we need to start exercising our no muscle. But
Hmm.
then on the other side of it, once you're able to do that, you have to say the no so that you can start to say the yes, which is obviously the development of yourself. I'm curious, as you were doing this, did you get to a point before you got remarried that
Hmm.
you got very comfortable with yourself and by yourself? Or did you find that because of the new person that you brought in, that you had in your life, a husband that was healthy, a husband that brought the best out of you? Um, did you do that? Did you discover those parts because of the relationship, or were you able to find that before the relationship?
I would say before the relationship. Even when he met me, he was like, whoa, how are you so healthy? You are more healthy than any of these women I've dated. And I was like, really? I don't know. But I actually got to a place to where I didn't ever want to be remarried. I
Mhm.
mean, I was like, no, that's not for me anymore. I'm an independent woman. I can create my own life.
Yeah.
And I loved my kids. And I planned on just being single forever with my three children and living happily ever that after that way. And I
Yeah.
was really at peace with it. It felt really good to me. So I did do the work. And then when I met my husband now, I was like, ah, crap. Like, oh, this is not part of my plan. You know, he was very persistent. And in all honesty, after 6 months of being married to him, once I married him, after 6 months, I was like, why did I do that? You know? And then he freaked out because he's like, what? You're questioning why we got married? I'm like, well, now I have like 7 kids and it's even more complicated. It was like so much easier with 3 and being single.
Right.
But I did, yeah, I would say it was before I got into that relationship. And of course, being in that relationship brought out more positive aspects, but I was definitely at peace
Yeah.
for, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and I bring that up because I know a lot of the people listening. We have a very large female audience that listens to the podcast, and the women that I have the opportunity to be talking to on a consistent basis. One of the things, and guys to a certain point, but I think women, like, they have a hard time being alone. They have a hard time
Yeah.
because, once again, they've lost their identity. They've given so much of themselves to so many other people that it is uncomfortable to be alone because you don't know what you want. You don't really know because you're not you're taking care of everybody else's needs, so many other people's
Yeah.
needs. So I think it was great that you said that. Your mission now is to help people uncover, help women specifically uncover their purpose and expose their strengths. I'm curious, so how long does it take? If somebody's kind of entrenched, just like with what you had gone through as well too, and a really unhealthy marriage, maybe they're on the other side of that. They made that decision to get out of it, and now they're starting to find themselves again. How long do you see women typically take to be able to walk through the pain of the decisions that they made so that they can enjoy the fruits of all of that work? What does that
Mhm.
timeline typically look like?
It's hard to say typical timeline because every woman is different.
Sure.
So if they are well on that path, it really can even be within a few weeks that they feel
Mm.
totally different and at peace. But
Yeah.
then there's the women that it's like months and months. And you're like, come on, like you're so close, but
Yeah.
they still have those barriers. But what I do is I teach them how to, one, become aware. And then I take them through a thought process of like, you can rewire your brain at any given moment, right? So your brain can continually have new neurons, new synapses, new beliefs, like new thoughts, all of the things. And so when you realize that and you see where you're getting in your own way, your life can become drastically different. I mean, I went from totally broke single mom to now living a totally dream lifestyle. I'm going to Cancun this week for 10 days. It's like, I never thought that that would be my life, but it was the way I was perceiving my life. So I teach women how to do that. And then we also go through a process of showing them what their strengths are. Because when it comes to strengths, there are strengths. So we don't think they're really anything great. Like we might overlook them, but if you can expose them and use them to work for you instead of focusing on weaknesses, which is what a lot of women do, you can go so much farther and faster in your journey of like growth and development. And so that's what we go through, showing them what they actually are. They have to take a test and then working on their patterns in their brain.
Do you also, I imagine a lot of your clients are married as well too. Is that safe to say, or?
Yeah, I get both. I get both because women are like, "Oh, she's been a single mom." Okay, like she's been there, so that I get both. I get even women who haven't even gotten married or have kids or anything. So
For
women
those
in
that are
general.
married, yeah. So for those that are married, are there ways that you help strengthen that marriage as well too? Because I know that you see, obviously now being remarried, sounds like you've got a great good guy that you're married to. Relationships do take work,
Yeah.
and they do take a lot of discovery of who the other person really is, because you're constantly unlayering the trueness of us, right?
Yeah.
Do you work with them in order to work on strengthening their marriage as they are working with you?
Yeah, but it just becomes part of the process,
Yeah.
and when it comes to relationships in general, I always tell people that your thoughts about any person is as good as your relationship is ever going to be. So how are you thinking about your partner? What are you doing for your partner? It's as easy as like, what's going on in your head, because that's how you're going to show up. And so we do get really in depth on their relationship if they're struggling with their relationship, and teaching them how they can show up, because a lot of times, even if they change a few things, the relationship now looks totally different, even if their partner doesn't change anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
There's
yeah.
nothing well, and that's exactly right. I think that the mindset of like what you can control is what's going to actually end up changing, right? The other person, that's up to them. Work-life balance it's always a huge thing that I imagine that you're working with your clients, obviously working with yourself, working on yourself for, and so forth. As you continue to grow and expand, as you continue to do the things that you're passionate about, how do you keep that in check? And what are the things that maybe that you are doing that help you have a balanced of a life as you possibly want? Because I think that imbalance is totally fine. Once again, there's certain things, there's chapters in our lives or seasons in our lives that require more attention than others at certain times. But I'd love to know kind of like from your perspective with all of the things that you're juggling.
Yeah. So family is really important to me. It's really number one. And if you're an entrepreneur, you can let everything take a back seat to your business. And I know that that's been me over the course of a number of years. And so I schedule in all of my family time first, even counting myself, like my own alone time. So that is most important. The second thing that's most important is my workouts. So my workouts and my journaling. So those things happen very first. And then as far as the work-life balance, I think results driven when it comes to my business. What do I want to achieve by the end of the week? And so on Monday, and it's not like, what's all this list of to-dos? Let's put all these to-dos on the list. It's like, no, okay, so these are the to-dos. What is the result that I want to get out of this by the end of the week? And so everything that I transfer over to my calendar is results driven. The podcast is edited and done. The chapter in the book, if I'm writing a book or whatever, like this is where I'm getting to. And so I time box it and I focus on B- effort.
Okay.
Which just means
80% is good enough, right?
80% is good enough. It's better than not being done. And so if you focus so much on being perfect, nothing is ever going to get done. And so if you 80%, it's done, it's good enough, people are going to be touched by it. And that way I feel like I do have a good balance because family's first, my body is second, and then I fill in everything else with like being results driven.
I love it. That's awesome. That's good. Well, I think one of the things, like, I would say that the majority of people would say, oh, family's always, family's first. But then when you ask them in detail, like, okay, well, then how do you do that? How does that work out? And they can't really talk about it, like, other than the fact that it's an emotional response. But just like you said, I think it's so important. Like, show me your calendar. Show me your calendar and I will know what is most important in your life. Right. We were doing the last week, we were doing a kind of a business plan for a lot of the agents that we have in our real estate company. And I told them all to get out their calendars. And I talked about, like, what are the things that are important in your life? What are the things that you're prioritizing and so forth? And of course they're all telling, family, faith, me time, all these things, all of these things. And then I'm like, okay, let's pull out your calendar and then show me where that's at. And 90% of them are like, well, I don't actually have it in there. I'm like, well, then that's not a priority. Then that's not, like, you have to get over this idea that your calendar is just for appointments for business. And so I'm so glad. I'm just trying to reiterate that is such an important point, that what you do in your life. And that's one of the reasons why you can stay consistent with it, because it is that priority and it is a reminder every time that you put that in the calendar. So
it is. And the other thing with that is, like, I don't feel guilty when I'm with my family. I know with entrepreneurship, I would be like, oh, before I really functioned out of this space, like I would be like, oh, I still have to do this, this, and this. And so when I was with my family, I was not present. I wasn't with them. It was like everything else was going on in my head, or I'd be on my phone. And I just had to say, like, is this really, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I'm doing this for them. Well, they need me now. And so just shifting that to where, no, I'm all in. I don't hang out on my phone when I'm with my family. I just am all in on being with my family. And it's created a completely different dynamic in our home too. So I preach that from the rooftops. It's why we do what we do. So schedule it in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, when somebody wants to work with you, what does that look like? Are they part of a mastermind group? Are they on a one-on-one basis with you? Do they do that once a week, a couple times a month? Like, what does the coaching aspect look for you?
Yeah. So I have 3 different like tiers, I guess, that I do. I do the one-on-one coaching, which typically ends up being weekly.
Okay.
And then I do have a 12-week program that's called Thrive Camp, where I take women through just a whole process of change. And that is in a group format. And then they do get a little bit of one-on-one with me as well. Okay. And then for entrepreneurs and coaches, I have a business one that I run that's also like a 12-week program that they can go through when they're learning how to, like, overcome a lot of the blocks of entrepreneurship, the ups and the downs and marketing and like all of that. And so that's really the 3 things that I offer. Awesome. And yeah, it's just right on my website if people are interested, which is just amysanders.co. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, as we wrap this up, I'd love a couple of things. One is, how do people follow you? How do people get in contact with you? I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of women after this podcast that are be like, hey, I'm raising my hand over here. It sounds like what you've gone through is things that I'm going through right now. And I'm tired of living that life. I'd love to get on the other side of this. What is the best way that they can track you down, whether it's social media or your website?
Yeah. Probably the easiest way is just my Instagram, which is Coach Amy Sanders. And then again, my website's just amysanders.co, not com, co. Okay. It's a very common name, so I couldn't go with the com.
Awesome. Love it. I love it. Well, as we close this out, I'd love to just give the mic to you so that you can speak life into those that are listening here that are, I'm sure that there's some things in their life that they're struggling with, maybe some lack of momentum, some speed bumps that they're not able to actually overcome yet. So as a coach, Amy, I'd love to give you the mic so that you can inspire them.
Okay. Well, the first thing I would say is a lot of times when you're going through trials, we get really scared. We have a lot of fear around how things are going to turn out. And so I heard this quote a long time ago and it stuck with me, that the cave you fear holds the treasure you seek. And so you just have to move through that fear. And every single time you do, you get a little more confident. You have a little more confidence. You have a little more strength. You have a little more resilience. And the more you do that, you realize the more you actually can do. And so it just becomes a snowball effect. And you can have whatever it is that you desire in your life. So if you have this big, crazy dream, there's something inside of you that's telling you to go after it and that you can. Another quote that I'm sure you've heard is one by Napoleon Hill, which is just, if the mind can conceive it and believe it, it can achieve it. And so if you have some goal, or if you're working on something and things aren't really panning out, your mind has conceived it. You just have to believe it. And as long as you believe it, which is just some of that mindset work that I can help you with, then you can have it. And I am living proof of that. I never thought, like, I wanted to be this like millionaire. That sounded really great. I don't know why I wanted to be that, but I wanted to be that. And now I'm like, whoa, like, hey, that wasn't that hard. Like, it took me 5 years to get to that point from when I started working on it. And it was like 5 years goes by. It's going to go by anyway. So what are you doing to achieve whatever those goals are? And, whether it's monetary or family or whatever, like, you can have it. You don't have to play small. And when you play small, you're turning away from what you really want anyway. So it's a little bit of a betrayal. So play big. You can have whatever it is that you want. And go bigger. I mean, don't go home. Just go big is all I have to say. Just go big. See what you can become.
I love it. That is awesome, lady. Thank you so much. That was so good. Everybody, listen, as she was saying that, I love this idea of the cave, right? The cave that you are fearful of contains that treasure that you seek. So that's going to stick with me for a while. So Amy, thanks so much for joining us on the show today. Wonderful interview. So great to get to know you a little bit more and love what you're doing and out there to change women's lives.
Well, thank you. I feel honored to be here. So thank you.
All right, you guys. Hey, listen, follow her Instagram. You know that Coach Amy Sanders. You can get more information there, or you can go to her website, www.amysanders.co. That's it. That's all you need right there. All right. Hey, absolutely love you. You know, the price for this podcast is only to share it. And you know that there's somebody out there that is needing to hear this message from Amy. So I just ask you to get it in the hands for them so that they can start to make an impact in their lives by getting a little bit more of Amy in their life as well too. So absolutely love you. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon.